Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, our second tennis podcast of this week. We are here to preview the season-ending WTA Finals in Riyadh, held in Riyadh for the second straight year, the second edition of this tournament in Riyadh. We'll also have a little update on all things Paris and La Cousinade, the latest edition of La Cousinade between Arthur Rinderknech and Valentin Vacherot, the connoisseurs' great rivalry of the ATP Tour. David remains Holly David, still trying to make that happen. He's in Croatia. How are you doing, David?
I'm very well. It is. It said it was going to drizzle all day today, which made me think it was this time next week. But it turns out it hasn't drizzled. It's lovely and sunny, and the WTA Finals are on the horizon with my fave Luisa Stefani in. So, life's good.
We know all about drizzle, Matt, here in sunny old London.
Yeah, yesterday was more than drizzle. It was just solid rain all day. But
it was
getting
to
all right.
Australia weather yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep. No such issues in Riyadh. It's an indoor tournament, isn't it? That was a surprise to me last year. I was expecting it to be outdoor. But no, indoor tournament. Obviously, we know a little bit more about what to expect because it is the second edition of the tournament in Riyadh, part of Saudi season. I think you'll be seeing some Saudi season branding. No, Riyadh season. What do they call it? Maybe they do need the branding. I need the branding. What is it? It's Riyadh season, isn't it?
Riyadh season, yeah.
Is there going to be an aggravating amount of Riyadh season branding on the court for you, Matt Roberts?
Almost certainly. Any amount of that branding is quite aggravating, and I suspect it will be everywhere.
The draw has been done. In fact, we have a first order of play as well. So we have two groups, 4 players in each group. We have the Serena Williams group. That is populated by Iga Swiatek, Amanda Anisimova, Aryna Sabalenka, and Madison Keys. And then we have the Steffi Graf group, which I think is actually officially called the Stephanie Graf group. And that features Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, the defending champion, Jessica Pegula, and Jasmine Paolini. And we know that it'll be the Serena Williams group that kicks things off on Saturday. We will have Iga Swiatek against Madison Keys as an opener, and Amanda Anisimova against Aryna Sabalenka to follow. And then on Sunday, we will open with Jasmine Paolini against Aryna Sabalenka, and then Coco Gauff against Jessica Pegula. Matt, what was your initial reaction to this draw?
Well, obviously it just appeared on the internet with no fanfare at all. That was, of course, my initial reaction, to be angry about the way it was done. But once I got past that, my initial reaction was that I really like how these groups have come out, actually. I think in the Serena Williams group, you've got Iga Swiatek up against all the possible big hitters that she could have faced out of the various combinations that it could have been. All of them landed in Swiatek's group. And that, traditionally over the last couple of years has been a really fascinating style of match on the WTA Tour, Iga Swiatek versus big hitters. She's got a lot better at playing them, I think. We've seen that with her record against Rybakina this year, 4-0. She's really turned that head-to-head round in particular. But still, it's an interesting matchup generally. And we've also got some new matchups there because Amanda Anisimova has never played Aryna Sabalenka and she's never played Madison Keys. So there's some intrigue there. Whereas the other group, I think we've got known interesting matches as well. I don't think there's been a matchup all year that has driven narrative and caused as much discussion and powered talk shows in the States as much as Sabalenka Gauff, and we're going to get to see that again. Pegula Sabalenka has been a really good match the last few times they've played, whether it be in Wuhan recently or at the US Open in the last couple of years as well. And then Paolini Gauff has also been an interesting matchup this year. Paolini's had the better of it. Gauff got a win recently. So I'm looking all the way through these groups and these matchups, and there are very few duds. I think it's really lined up well. So yeah, I was pretty excited to see those draws on paper as they are.
Yeah, I felt the same. I think the only kind of individual matchup that I'm minorly bummed out about is Gauff Pegula. I don't love their matches against one another. I think they tend to be just a little bit weird. But pretty much every other matchup I'm into here, David. I think this is a good draw from a fan perspective. Potentially not a great Iga Swiatek draw. She might not love how things have shaken out, although I suspect she'd be pretty circumspect given, top 8 players in the world. There are no great draws to be had. But yeah, for fans, I think this is pretty much a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and actually I think although it's probably more concerning for her in terms of her prospects of actually going further by having this draw, the intrigue and the challenge makes it pretty enticing from her perspective as well, because she's had a really, really good season. Okay, it might have been a little bit unusual in terms of what she's won and how she's won things, but what if she would have come out here and just beat them all? That would probably mean more than if it were the other way around. And so you're right. From a fan perspective, I'm so excited to just see that as a prospect. Maybe there's one or two matches in that group, probably Keys Rybakina, that I'm not sure is going to be a great match, because they're both trying to just destroy the ball so much, and it might lead to a lot of errors. But I kind of feel like the most interesting player in the entire competition really is Amanda Anisimova, because she's new. I was looking at all the other players; they've all played it before, and she hasn't. And throwing her into that mix just makes things fascinating. I'm curious to see how she takes to it. I suspect she'll take to it very well. But I like the matches from her perspective, because although she's a big hitter, she's also that really fluid, clean hitter as well. So I like watching big hitters trying to hit through her, knowing that she can time it back. And whenever you get her up against Swiatek to kind of continue the narrative of what they've had all year, that's fascinating. In the other group, yeah, it is interesting how you've ended up with kind of the one big hitter and then the three more counter-punching players. That is somewhat surprising, but I'm really quite excited about this lineup generally. I think it's a great 8 players for a start.
Yeah, at minimum they've all reached. I think the least credentialed player in terms of like Grand Slam CV is Jessica Pegula, with just the one Grand Slam final. Then you've got Paolini and Anisimova with 2 Grand Slam finals each, and then everybody else is a Grand Slam champion. Like, this is a stellar lineup in terms of credentials, and quite different in terms of depth to what we're going to get at the ATP finals in Turin. I think I am quite enjoying seeing Lorenzo Musetti desperately trying to find a way to qualify for the finals for the first time, but he's in a completely different category to anybody in the WTA finals field. I think this is A grade.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I also think another really interesting dynamic going into these finals is the very different weeks that these players have had since the US Open. There's a few players in here who have played a lot. Pegula's played 3 tournaments, 13 matches, including 8 3-setters in a row. Rybakina's played 5 tournaments, 13 matches. Paolini played 4 tournaments, 14 matches since the US Open. Swiatek, 3 tournaments, 10 matches. But then you've got Keys, who hasn't played since the US Open, is a real unknown, I think, coming in here in terms of form and fitness. And then you've got Sabalenka and Anisimova, who've just played the one tournament each as well, and are pretty rested, really. So I think that dynamic could play out through the groups as well. The sort of players who have really not played a lot because they haven't needed to, versus the players who have been pushing and are probably, match sharp and match tight, but are they fatigued? And I think that's quite even in the groups in terms of in terms of that fatigue. It's sort of spread across the groups, I think. But that could be an element as well that influences how some of these matchups go. So yes, there's this heavyweight feel to it, but there's also people coming in slightly different form, slightly different fitness, and I think that's going to be an interesting element to it.
And generally speaking, it does feel like burnout is less of a kind of ghost at the feast with the WTA Finals than it's going to be with the ATP Finals. Like Pegula's maybe my one player that I think, God, I just feel like I've watched a lot of Jessica Pegula playing tennis since the US Open. Like not only the number of tournaments she's played, but the length of those matches. I just feel like she's been on my telly a lot, running around a lot. But in terms of your big hitters, a lot of them have been able to be, as you say, pretty prudent with their post-US Open schedule. Anisimova was able to win Beijing and then sit out on the sidelines for a bit. Swiatek and Sabalenka have picked and chosen since then. And okay, you've got Rybakina, who's had a slightly more Musetti-esque chasing arc. But generally speaking, I have less of a feeling of like Hunger Games about these WTA Finals than I fear I'm gonna have with Turin. I don't know how you feel about that, David.
Yeah, I probably agree. And Pegula is, generally speaking, I think the player who just feels durable. She feels like she can keep coming out and delivering performances pretty much regardless. She may not have the ceiling of some, but what a battler she is and what a consistent player. I mean, I do remember it was, I think, a couple of years ago when she very clearly hit the wall at this event and just lost everything, singles and doubles. She was playing doubles with Coco Gauff, I think, as well, and they just couldn't play. And maybe the fact that she's playing...
Was that Fort Worth? Was that the Fort Worth year?
Might well be. It's certainly 2 or 3 years ago.
The year before Cancun. It's Cancun that lives rent-free in my head.
Yeah, that's the one with the hurricane that was blowing through us at the time,
yes.
or what felt like
yes.
it anyway.
Yeah.
And just basically...
Court furniture flying around.
Yeah, uninhabitable tennis courts, basically. Not ideal. But... a few years have passed since then, and she's not playing the same level of doubles now, the same amount of doubles. Maybe that's a factor in being able to do this a little more throughout a full season. I do think. I mean, look, there are fewer tournaments really back to back banked into this event in quite the same way. Yes, there are tournaments going on in Tokyo and other places, but it's almost as though there's a 3-week run and then they get a bit of time off and then they come into it, and it's earlier in the season. You've got another couple of weeks for the ATP Finals, or another week at least, and you've got a real race going on, and you've got them all banked up, including a Masters 1000 right at the end of it as well, and Shanghai. It's a heck of a lot in the men's side of things.
And it's the European indoor swing that the ATP has that the WTA doesn't. Like the men have been to Asia as well. They've played Beijing and Tokyo and Shanghai, in kind of the same weeks that the women have been in Asia. But then the men have these really great prestigious events, your Basel, Vienna, Paris. They're good events, but they do elongate the season, and they do mean that race continues right up to the final day before the ATP Finals start, whereas there's just a bit more runway with the WTA Finals after the Asian swing, because they don't have that history of those prestigious indoor events at this time of the year that the men have, and the men want to play those events, and I get that. They're really good events, they're really well attended, they maybe feel a bit bigger than they are even at this time of the season, but it does lead, I think, to a lot of burnout, and I think that ATP finals have suffered because of that in the last few years. We've had several ATP finals where there have been a lot of one-sided matches, whereas I am coming into this WTA finals pretty pumped about a lot of these players and the form I'm expecting them to be in, considering they've had just a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same. I mean, all discomfort about Saudi Arabia being the host nation remains. We talked about that at length in our most recent podcast episode with Charlie Eccleshare, and on a different, taking a different angle on that, my anxiety about crowds and atmosphere remains, in the amount of appetite there is to watch women's tennis in Saudi Arabia. Last year, I think the best crowds were for Zheng Qinwen's matches, as I recall, because of the Chinese population in Saudi Arabia. Well, there's no Zheng Qinwen this year, so what are crowds going to be like? Will this event get anywhere near the atmosphere and the vibe that it deserves? I hope so, but I do have anxiety about it on that front. Paris, that we've been watching this week, the men's 1000 event, is so elevated by the vibe and the energy of the crowd, of that French crowd. It is too much. Like, they shouldn't be playing a Masters 1000 event right now. Like, everyone is absolutely on their last legs. It does feel like the Hunger Games, and yet you look at that French crowd and the Roland Garros energy they're bringing to it all, and it just, I don't know, it gets me going. It's pretty irresistible, and you need that at this stage of the season when everyone's running on fumes. So yeah, I look, proof will be in the pudding, but I have that anxiety about the tournament, just as I did last year. Some predictions, I think, feels like the order of the day. The Serena Williams group. Do we like how do they just pluck legendary names out of a hat? Like, how have we landed on Serena and Stephanie here?
Yeah, how quickly you go from sort of being maybe the best player in the world to being the name of a group. It feels like Serena and Steffi, like, I know they did play against each other, but they're from different eras.
They're not a couplet.
No. I feel like they could have gone
Serena
Steffi
Venus?
And Conchita Martinez, or Arancha Sanchez Vicario, or Monica Seles, and yeah, it feels a bit weird that we've got these two paired together. But I do like them being the names of the group. I prefer that to just, the white and green group, or something. I think it's quite fun to have the players, but yeah, a bit of an odd couplet to choose.
Who is going to win the Serena Williams group, and who else is going to qualify from the group? So who are going to be the top two finishers in Serena Williams? Let's call it the Serena Williams group.
I think that I would go with Anisimova to top the group. And to me, it's between Rebecca and Swiatek. And I'm going to go for Swiatek because I do think, although Rebecca has got the momentum, I do think at some point, surely she's going to run out of gas. She's played so much recently. So I think I'm going to go for those two in that order, Anisimova and then Swiatek.
So do you think Anisimova is beating Swiatek, David?
Yeah. I think she's going 3-0.
You got a little nod of approval from Matt Roberts there during that answer. Yeah, he's beaming.
Love it. Love it.
Looks like a proud parent.
She does feel like one of the more reliable players. I expect Anisimova to play well now. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was definitely a time in her career where you really didn't know what you were going to get, but we've just had months and months of real consistency. And yeah, she is pretty fresh, I think, coming in. I know she's been in Riyadh like a while. I think she's had quite a long time to get used to the conditions. So yeah, no surprise at all that I will agree with David there. I think the Rybakina matchup is interesting because, as I said, they've never played before. We get that match straight away on Saturday. That feels pretty pivotal because I do expect Keys to be the weak link in this group just because of her lack of matches.
Is she fully fit, Alison Keys? She's certainly a question mark on the fitness front.
Yeah. So I think Anisimova Rybakina right out the gate is big in terms of who comes through this group. But matchup wise, just thinking about it, one of Anisimova's great strengths is her return of serve. You know, the way she can attack that shot ordinarily. But how does that match up against, when it's firing, the best serve on the WTA Tour, I would say, in Aryna Rybakina? Can Anisimova be as effective on the return? I think will be a key element to that match. I do back Anisimova, and I do ultimately back Swiatek as well. I was looking at all the various head-to-heads between everyone in the field. She's the only one in the field who doesn't have a losing head-to-head against anyone here, Iga Swiatek, which is pretty impressive. You know, this is the other best players in the world, and at worst, she's even against everyone, or she's got a winning record. And I think we can look at her and think maybe she's a bit vulnerable against these big hitters because she has been at times, and she's talked about the fatigue she's feeling. But I do think she'll have enough to get through this group, considering how she's turned the head-to-head round against Rybakina this year. In fact, the only set she's lost against Rybakina this year was at Roland Garros, oddly. She's won their hard court matches in straight sets. So yes, I will go with David and go Anisimova and Swiatek to get out of that group.
Yeah, boring. I think I will as well. And I share your thoughts about like this new normal of Anisimova just feeling like a reliable top 4 player. Like, that is just who she is now. Is so cool. But yeah, it is a new normal that I'm still adjusting to. Stephanie Graf. Who is going to come through Stephanie Graf? We have Sabalenka, Gauff, Pegula and Paolini. How is this going to shake down, Matt?
Very tricky, this one, I think. Paolini, I'm gonna commit the cardinal sin and probably underestimate Jasmine Paolini. I'm a bit concerned that she's also playing the doubles, and I think she is the most running on fumes, maybe out of anyone. Certainly her and Rybakina, because they've just had to make that push. I just think it's a lot. And I think she can play good matches. You know, I don't think she's going to get absolutely hit off the court. She's shown that she belongs, but she is the one that I'm looking at and thinking it's going to be tougher to get through this group. So obviously my apologies in advance for underestimating Jasmine Paolini. When we do I'm fully prepared to lead the next podcast with an apology to Jasmine Paolini after what I've just said. Maybe I'm leaning towards Sabalenka and Pegula here. Sabalenka, speaks for itself, really. I think most people would probably be backing Sabalenka to come through. I know Gauff just beat Pegula in the final in Wuhan, but I did think Pegula was she almost had nothing left. I think the rest will have done her good in the last couple of weeks, and she just feels a bit more reliable with her game right now. But Coco Gauff has shown that she can cause Sabalenka problems. She can come through matches even when she's not at her best. I just think it's a lot for Coco Gauff, for someone who is struggling with her game a little bit at the moment, to be up against top players straight away. There's no playing yourself in, getting used to it. I'm leaning Pegula for that reason, but don't feel strongly. But yeah, Sabalenka and Pegula would be my prediction on the eve of the tournament.
David?
I am going to go for Sabalenka and Gauff. Gauff has got the track record at this event, and I think that she is helped by the fact that to some degree she isn't results oriented in quite the same way at the end of the season as she is earlier on in the season when it's the Grand Slam. She said that outright at the US Open, that she the rest of the year to me is about improving, and I think that clears her head. I think she's a brilliant competitor when she does need to win, and she always wants to win, but when there's not that pressure, that absolute, if I don't get the final point, then it's all worthless. When you relieve that from her, I think that she probably becomes more dangerous. Very difficult to do, of course. Players often talk in other sports, if I could only play how I practice, if I could only relax, not grip the racket so tightly, or the club so tightly. And I think that maybe that's what happens to Gauff at the end of the season. So I'm not entirely sure. I would probably go Sabalenka first and Gauff second, but it could easily be the other way around. But I would go for those two.
And I also think the draw is decent for Gauff in that she's not got players who are going to totally just hit her off the court if she's having a bad day. I know she couldn't have faced Anisimova in the groups because they were in the same pot, being the third and fourth ranked players. But, getting Pegula rather than Rybakina, I think is maybe helpful. And getting Sabalenka rather than Swiatek, I think is maybe helpful, considering that Swiatek, when she's at her best, has proven to be a match-up problem for Gauff in a way that sort of Sabalenka never has been. That's maybe on her side too. It's tough to call. It's great. I love that. I love that I'm so unsure.
I keep thinking about those US Open quotes from Gauff as well, where she was kind of like, "Yeah, I won the WTA Finals last year kind of by accident because I didn't care that much." Coco Gauff is sort of in the inexplicable category for me. She definitely could win the thing, or she could crash and burn with 25 double faults in every match. I really don't know. Will this be the first time we've seen Gauff Sabalenka since the French Open final?
I think so.
I think it is, right? Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. We had them practicing together, didn't we, on...
Yes,
was it
at
Court
Wimbledon
1 or Centre?
with Pam.
With Pam immediately after, when they were...
Yeah, and they were all very friendly. There was a
very,
TikTok.
very quick to play it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
But put them in a match scenario again.
Yeah. There's no TikTok here. I mean, I'm sure there will be, but... okay, right. I'm into it. Who's going to win the... Oh, Matt?
Well, are you leaning Gauff, Catherine, over Pegula in that group?
I've just said she's inexplicable, which is my way of saying I'm getting myself off the hook of making Gauff predictions. I feel like Jessica Pegula is my Jasmine Paolini. I always underestimate her. But then
so are you
Gauff
picking Paolini to come through?
No. The
Okay.
person I'm not picking to come through is Paolini. I think she must be on fumes. And I worry about it.
People are listening to this and laughing at us right now.
Here they go again.
Here they go again.
Singles and doubles. I'm going to pick it to win the doubles, Matt. There you go.
Right, yeah.
That's having my cake and eating it, isn't it?
Cop out.
I am backing Sara Irani. I'm going to go Sabalenka and Pegula.
Okay.
I think Gauff struggles with the Pegula matchup more than Pegula does. I think it's weirder for Gauff somehow.
I think it's got a bit less weird though.
Yeah, neither of them struggle with it as much as I do. I just don't. Yeah. I don't like it. Don't like those matches. But yeah, okay. I'm going to go for Sabalenka and Pegula, and I'm going to underestimate Jasmine Paolini and defending champion Coco Gauff. There we go. Who's going to win the whole title?
Anisimova.
Do you actually think that?
I do. I actually do.
I think I do too,
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. Who am I? I love that I think it was in Beijing, not when she won the title, or maybe it was when she won the title. It was whatever match that confirmed her qualification for Riyadh, for the WTA Finals. And she said in her on-court interview, this is huge for me. That was my goal at the start of this seain.
Yeah, she said it was the only goal she achieved.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what were the others? And it's probably unfair, but like that really surprised me because I didn't have anything like these aspirations for her at the start of this season, and it wasn't until the spring that she brought on Shardy and the new fitness team and everything, and like I think of kind of that as the massive turning point for Amanda Anisimova, when I would have assumed that kind of her goals and aspirations changed around as well. But it was obviously far earlier than that, and I love that she was kind of putting that out there in the universe right at the start of this season. And I think she's going to win it.
By the way, interesting, if she does play Pegula, for example, in the semis or final, obviously they can't play in the group. She's never beaten Pegula. She's got an 0-3 record against Pegula, has Anisimova. So that's something to watch out for. Has David got a rational pick for the title?
No.
So who are you picking?
Anisimova.
Oh, okay.
Are you really?
Of course.
Oh, God.
You're asking me to be the rational one.
No one's picking
Yes,
Swiatek or
David.
Sabalenka.
No, I thought I'm the out there guy, and you've gone to me for sensible stuff. Ridiculous.
Okay.
So we're all picking Anisimova.
Imagine how cool we'll look if we get it right.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of it's quite a lot of eggs in one basket, isn't it? It's quite a lot of credibility eggs in one.
Yeah.
In one.
I don't worry about that.
But okay, we are where we are. Join us in part 2, and we will look at Paris. We'll look at the doubles group. We'll have a little look at what Jannik Sinner has been saying this week about some big picture tennis stuff in the Guardian newspaper. Join us in part 2 for that. Welcome back to part 2 of today's tennis podcast. A quick look at the doubles groups in Riyadh at the WTA Finals. Again, don't necessarily think of Martina Navratilova and Liesl Huber as a couplet, but here we are. I
was so ready to go on a rant about why it wasn't the Pam Shriver group if we've got the Martina Navratilova group. However, I did just go back and check, and we have had a Pam Shriver group in
who was she paired with?
2022. Any guesses who she was paired with? It's a tough one to get. Rosie Casals is the answer.
Right.
Fun. I think they put fun together.
Okay.
Rosie and Pam is a good time.
Yeah, they sort of personality matches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In the Martina Navratilova group, we have Sara Errani and Jasmine Paolini, Veronika Kudermetova and Elisa Mertens, Sue Shea and Yelena Ostapenko, and Asia Mohammed and Demi Scherz. In the Liesl Huber group, we have Katerina Siniakova and Taylor Townsend, Gabby Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe, Mira Andreeva and Diana Schneider, and Tamir Babos and Luisa Stefani. David, according to an early morning WhatsApp we received this morning, is very pumped about the Liesl Huber group. Explain yourself, David.
I think it's amazing. It's more or less perfection. I mean, I suppose I'd like to have Arani and Paolini in there as well. But actually, the whole thing's great because Ostapenko and Shea are in the other group too. But I mean, look, my favourite player is Luisa Stefani, right? In doubles. I think she's absolutely wonderful. And she's playing with Tamea Babos. She's such a dynamic player, Stefani. A Jedi-like, as I always like to think of these players who can just read shots and just end up there where they're supposed to be. And the fact that she's in a group with Andreeva and Schneider, that's cool. Isn't Dabrowski your favourite, Matt? I think.
Yes. She's my what a player.
Yeah,
and I
thought so.
I think that's aged really well. I think
so was Luisa Stefani, thank you very much. And Katerina Siniakova and Taylor Townsend is exceptional fun. They're brilliant doubles players, so that's an amazing group. Can't wait for it.
Holly David is a big Liesl Huber guy. Who knew? Okay. That's it for the WTA Finals in Riyadh. We will, of course, be back with extra pods to cover that event. So our next pod is when?
I think it's planned for a group stage wrap-up. So I think that's like Friday next week for the focusing on WTA Finals. But we'll also have a regular pod on Monday to talk mostly about Paris. But we'll discuss the first few days of the WTA Finals and what we've seen.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. Matt likes order and structure, as we established last night. We're having an existential chat about draws while waiting for the Carabao Cup quarter-final draw, which did not go as hoped.
Yeah, Catherine came up with the idea that tennis should do a draw after every round in the way that football does.
Which is what football does. So we were waiting for the quarter-final draw of the Carabao. They redraw everyone.
Mm.
Now, I'm not suggesting tennis should adopt this across the board, but could we not try it? I don't know.
I like it.
Wouldn't that be fun?
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's a bit like my let's not have seeds draw.
Yeah, there would be some things to iron out about seeds and whether you have seeds, whether you reseed after every round. Look, I'm prepared to workshop that with whichever tournament director wants to come with me on this. But let's give it a go.
Yeah, it'd be fun. And then I said, I initially said it would be great fun because I love draws. I want as many draws as possible.
Didn't love draws last night, Matt.
No. Well, I did really. I didn't like the outcome of the draw, but I liked the feeling of trying to find out who Fulham are going to play. But then I realised I do like the initial buzz of what's going to happen. But then what I really like is the structure that a draw gives my life, and I know what the next week or couple of weeks are roughly going to look like. I'm a planner. I like to have my days lined up. I know what I'm doing a week from today, all that kind of thing. And I think a draw gives me that organisation and structure in my life. I had a real moment of realising what it is I like about draws last night.
But the thing is, you would still have that structure. You'd still know a week from Wednesday is quarterfinals day. You just wouldn't be able to project.
I wouldn't be able to project, and
okay.
I like the projection.
Okay, too much chaos for Matt in my system. I mean, it might be too much chaos for me and for the wider public as well. But until we try, we don't know.
It's definitely too much chaos for tennis. Tennis can't even do one draw properly per tournament, let alone 5, 6.
It can do it, Matt. It just needs the right people in charge.
Yeah,
right.
You're right.
Yeah, someone come with me on this. My DMs are open.
The right people are not in charge of enough tournaments.
On this. Catherine's come up with the idea. We need Wimbledon's organisers, and we need Matt Roberts'
came up
consultants.
With the idea, but
well, you're the one who's adapted
Jamie
it to
Redknapp
tennis.
Involved.
No,
yes,
we're all right.
Thank you very much, David. Jamie Redknapp was responsible for. Was it him that picked ball number 3 out of the bag?
Well, we were the last team left.
With the words, "Oof, tough draw for Fulham."
Yeah.
Okay.
I've bounced back. I've come round. I think we're going
tough
through.
Draw for Newcastle, I think.
Yes, David.
Turning our attention to Paris and its new venue, the Accor Arena. I have to say...
no, it's La Défense Arena.
Oh, La Défense Arena.
Accor is the old one.
Is it? I thought that was Bercy.
Yeah, but it's the Accor Hotel or something that it
right,
was.
Okay. Accor Hotel don't want this one. Okay. La Défense Arena. The new venue for Paris Bercy. I have to say, visually, it's remarkably similar, isn't it? In terms of on the TV, like they've kept the look and feel very consistent from how it used to look in Bercy. We've had a big shock. It will not be a Sinner-Alcaraz final. Carlos Alcaraz's streak of reaching 9 consecutive tour finals has been snapped by Cameron Norrie. 4-6, 6-3, 6-4 in Alcaraz's opener. More than 50 unforced errors from Carlos Alcaraz, and it means that should Jannik Sinner win Paris, he will return to world number 1, but just for a week before inevitably handing it back to Carlos Alcaraz ahead of the ATP Finals, because his 1,500 points from winning the ATP Finals last year will drop off the computer. Do we read anything into this loss from Alcaraz other than it's October, it's indoors, it's the end of the season, it's, in the scheme of things, let's face it, fairly meaningless for Carlos Alcaraz? Like, I don't want to diminish this achievement for Cameron Norrie. He's beaten a world number 1. That is massive. But I think this is one of those, tell me if you disagree, that means an awful lot more on one end of the court than it does on the other. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, our trade is to have takes, right, about matches, and I think sometimes that can maybe lead us to read into something that isn't there, and I'm not going to do that. I really don't think this matters. You know, Carlos Alcaraz has had an incredible season, the best of his career, remarkable consistency. One match where he didn't really have the feel against an opponent who has been a little bit tricky for him in the past, has beaten him before. Cameron Norrie is an awkward opponent for him, I think. Yeah, I'm not gonna sound the alarm bells here at all. I think it was just one of those days, and he's shown this season that those days are happening a lot less. And you know, he moves on to Turin and tries to really play well there for the first time. You know, so yeah. I think he said there are some matches you learn from and some you forget about, and this is one of the ones you forget about, and that's pretty much where I am at with it. Although, you know, as you said, nice moment for Cameron Norrie. Big win for him.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? That part of me feels relief, like that he's going to sort of save some canister, you know, which isn't how I want to be feeling when watching tennis matches. But who needs Sinner Alcaraz anyway when you've got Rinderknech Vacherot? Am I joking? I don't know. I friggin' loved Rinderknech Vacherot yesterday. In the words of the bloke with the incredible sign in the crowds, "Vive la cousinade." Live long the cousins. Yeah, I'm so into these two, David. And it was was an even. The story's always been great, but this was a great match to boot.
Quite an achievement for them as cousins to produce something so watchable, because on paper it's your worst nightmare, Catherine, as a matchup. It's two people who love one another and want the best for one another. Surely that's not going to lead to an intoxicating mix of competition and dramatic scenes, and yet it does. And it's I mean, look, they make absolutely no secret of the fact that they think the world of one another, and yet they're trying to absolutely take each other down with every shot. Every shot is hit with intent. It's not all laughs and giggles all the time throughout the match, but it's nice afterwards. And I don't feel like either one of them is inhibited by being the other's cousin. They're a great watch. They're a great watch. And the Vacherot story just generally, I mean, look, I've loved Rinderknech this year, but Vacherot is just such a bonus at the end of the year because he's already proving it's not a one-off. And, I mean, look, I hope it carries on into the new year because he's a guy I want to see more of. I want to see him on I want to see him outdoors. I want to see what it looks like to watch him sort of, not under lights. It's just really fascinating to see whether this is just a hot streak of a few weeks or not. But I kind of feel like it's not.
Well, the run continues. He has just beaten Cameron Norrie, so we will be seeing more of Valentin Vacherot this week. Genuine question, Matt, is he the second favourite for this title behind Jannik Sinner?
Very good question. My instinct was to laugh at it, but then I realised he might be. I mean, he's on the other side of the draw, isn't he? To Sinner. I think I'd probably go Fritz ahead of Vacherot. I think Fritz is still there. I think we have to give Fritz his due. But then it might be Vacherot.
What about Valentin's due?
Well, I think even considering that question is giving him his due.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. He's got Felix Auger-Aliassime or Daniel Altmaier next. It does Auger-Aliassime. Altmaier took out Casper Ruud, ending his faint hopes of qualifying for the ATP Finals. Lorenzo Musetti, we watched him lose to Lorenzo Sonego last night. Matt, poor old Lorenzo Musetti is probably going to have to drag himself to Metz to try and qualify for Turin.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, he's still in the driving seat. What he does need is Auger-Aliassime to lose, because we're now in a situation where if Auger-Aliassime reaches the final here, he will pass Musetti in that 8th spot. So he definitely needs Auger-Aliassime to lose. And that's been close to happening in 2 straight matches. He's had to dig very deep, has Felix, against Comesaña and against Muller. It feels a little bit like he's hanging on as well, Auger-Aliassime. Like he is bit there for the taking, but he's getting through these matches, and that is making Musetti nervous. So there's definitely quite a lot of play there. Medvedev is still in with a big outside chance as well. I think he would need to win the title and then also potentially do something in a Metz or an Athens. But he's in the mix as well. But he is in Sinner's section, isn't he, Medvedev? So he would probably have to get past Sinner to even make the final in Paris. It's going to be tough for him. So basically, I think Musetti, who should have won that match in straight sets against Sonego last night, he had break points deep in that second set to potentially put himself in a winning position. When he didn't take them, he absolutely fell to pieces, had absolutely nothing to give in that 3rd set, and is now just in a situation where I think he'd be absolutely best off not playing Metz. I think the only good outcome now for Musetti is hoping that everyone else around him loses and he gets in that way, because he's said it's a nightmare, and now he's feeling it physically as well. Like poor Musetti. But it is quite compelling to see whether Auger-Aliassime can keep this run going and really pile on the pressure.
Alexander Bublik seems to be in with a totally outside shot of qualifying, certainly of being an alternate, which I think is a carrot in itself. He beat Corentin Moutet yesterday, did some aggro on the camera, told him he did some sort of have a safe flight home energy, didn't he? Which is, all pretty par for the course.
Yes, because I think Moutet had said something about wanting to send him home. And then Bublik won and wrote "on your way home" on the camera or something.
Yes, and lent into it further with his on-court interview, didn't he? Said he only lives in Paris, so it's a short taxi ride for him.
And then Mute said, I actually live in Dubai.
Oh, that's the equivalent of I'm still in the doubles.
I'm still in the doubles, yeah.
I live in Dubai. Alejandro Davidovich-Fokina has a chance of being an alternate in Turin. My understanding is that Daniil Medvedev is not interested in being an alternate. He would give up the alternate spot in Turin were he to qualify there in an alternate spot. So Davidovich-Fokina has something to chase. He takes on Alexander Zverev later on tonight. I got involved in some aggro with the French crowd last night, Matt, did Davidovich-Fokina. Did you watch this, David?
I
Can you
saw
explain the celebration
pictures.
To me?
So he was playing Arthur Cazot, and I saw the pictures of him blowing kisses to the crowd in a very dramatic manner, and I thought, oh yes, this is perfect.
He also hit them with the Steph Curry go to sleep celebration a couple of times.
I don't think of Davidovich-Fokina as that guy.
I think the French crowd can do that to anyone. It's what we love about it. You know, like remember Taylor Fritz turned into that guy. You know, that's where the Rinderknech stuff was born, wasn't it? On Suzanne Lenglen at Roland Garros. Yeah, great. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those where we had the option of it was Sinner Bergs, wasn't it, on the main court, and we watched Sinner go up a break, and then I thought, I think I know how this match is going. Let's get on to court 1, which used to be tiny in Bercy. It used to be a tiny court, I don't know, 500 people maybe. Now, you've still got the low camera angle on the TV. It's a good watch court 1, but there's also a massive stand at the side. So it's really enhanced, I would say, in terms of atmosphere. You get the intimate feeling watching it on the telly, but you also get massive atmosphere because there's a lot of people watching. And yeah, it was a good time, Cazot against Davidovich-Fokina. And very interested by Davidovich-Fokina Zverev later today. That feels like one where Davidovich-Fokina's probably going to have a shot, right? Like it's a question of whether he can.
Will he shit himself?
Will he shit himself a little bit? I think.
Yeah, it's the eternal Davidovich-Fokina question.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for part 2. Important stuff to come in part 3, though. Jannik Sinner has had some things to say this week, and he said them to The Guardian. We'll cover that in part 3. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast, where we need to talk about Jannik Sinner and some things that he has taken it upon himself to say this week. He's stuck his head above the parapet. He's gone to The Guardian, the British newspaper, an exclusive interview by Matt Hughes there. I'll read you some important sections from the write-up. Jannik Sinner has criticised the Grand Slam tournaments for failing to engage with repeated requests from the world's top stars to discuss prize money and welfare benefits for lower-ranked players. The Guardian has learned that detailed proposals from the world's top 10 male and female players over alterations to prize money were rejected by the Grand Slam tournaments in August, while their request for a meeting to discuss their concerns at the US Open was also turned down. Grand Slam tournaments are understood to have told the players that they cannot hold substantive talks until a separate legal case brought by the Professional Tennis Players Association, the PTPA, has been resolved. They also referenced ongoing negotiations over the tennis calendar and plans for a so-called premium tour. Sinner expressed frustration at the refusal of Grand Slam tournaments to discuss welfare benefits in particular, as well as repeating the players' call for greater prize money. We had good conversations with the Grand Slams at Roland Garros and Wimbledon, he said. So it was disappointing when they said they cannot act on our proposals until other issues are resolved. Calendar and scheduling are important topics, but there is nothing stopping the Slams from addressing player welfare benefits like pensions and healthcare right now. The Grand Slams are the biggest events and generate most of the revenue in tennis. So we're asking for a fair contribution to support all players and for prize money that better reflects what these tournaments can earn. We want to work together with the slams to find solutions that are good for everyone in tennis. The players argue that the ratio of prize money to overall tournament income is too low at about 12 to 15% across the 4 Grand Slam tournaments compared to 22% on the ATP and WTA tours. At Wimbledon last year, the total prize pot of 50 million represented 12.3% of the championship's £406.5 million total revenue. David, what Jannik Sinner is saying here and calling for here is nothing new. A lot of players, Novak Djokovic, the most prominent of them, has been talking about this and calling for this for a long time. So that kind of position and line of thinking is not necessarily a surprise or a shock. But was it a surprise or a shock to you that Jannik Sinner has chosen to put his head above the parapet like this?
I think in a vacuum it would be, because he is not somebody I associate with looking for additional outside distractions, who has a lot on his plate already, trying to be the best player in the world in the men's tennis, and is doing a pretty good job of it. But when you consider in the context of the fact that there have been these 2 letters sent to the Grand Slams by the top 10 players in both men's and women's tennis, organised, and this is key to me, organised via Larry Scott, who used to be the CEO of the WTA, who was the man who told us, who did an interview with us for the Journey to Equal Prize Money show that we did for Friends of the Tennis podcast, in which he explained how he kind of helped in conjunction with Billie Jean King and then later Venus Williams to orchestrate and pressurize publicly in order to manage to get what they wanted. And they did get equal prize money at all the Grand Slams. They'd already had it at the US Open. They got Wimbledon to go along eventually. Took years. But he was the choreographer of all of that. And the fact that the top 10 players as groups have hired him to run the show for them, or to run their campaign effectively, tells me that you've got somebody in charge who really knows what they're doing. Now, I don't know exactly what's happened here, but I wouldn't mind a bet that he has told the players, if you want to get what you want, you better be outspoken about it. He's attended meetings with Jannik Sinner and with other top players in order to try to get movement here. It seems to all be confused and held up by the fact that there's the PTPA's ongoing suit as well, which is a separate organisation, which is also purporting to represent players. And then you've got the tours themselves, the ATP and the WTA. So the whole thing is very difficult to get a clear idea of who's doing what and what's going to happen. But to me, it's not that surprising that Jannik Sinner, and I suspect we'll hear from other players, other top players in the future, who are going to pressurise and try to get their word out there.
Do you think, that, Matt, that seeing this was manna from heaven for the ATP and Andrea Gaudenzi, just as they're getting a load of flack for the schedule and players dropping like flies, and the optically untimely announcement of the 10th Masters event in Saudi Arabia? Jannik Sinner, the world number 2, sticks his head out and goes, yeah, that stuff does matter, but actually look over here. Is this other bigger problem? Look at the Grand Slams. They're more to blame. Let's focus on that problem right now.
Yeah, I suppose so, and I think it A, speaks to the array of issues that the players have, whether it be in terms of the amount of prize money that they're getting from the slams or the scheduling of the ATP. There's two very big issues there that are prominent issues, but it also speaks to the lack of united player approach to actually solving these issues. David's laid it out really well there. On the one hand, you've got these groups of top 10 players and they're targeting the one thing. You've got the PTPA with that very broad lawsuit that they put forward. And I always think this would be more effective, done properly together, targeting one thing at a time, I suppose, and all on a united front. And we just don't have that. Obviously, the PTPA has tried, but by no means has achieved that and been that. So you do end up with this slightly sort of scattergun approach, and a sort of priority for one person is not a priority for another. But it's I think they're all good points that Jannik Sinner makes. Like I wouldn't disagree at all with what he's saying there, and it must be frustrating if they've had promising conversations and then it's been held up by, well, what the slams are saying, the PTPA, and Sinner's thinking surely we should all be on the same page here, but they're not, and that's why it's quite sort of stagnant, I think.
Yeah, there's a great irony of the PTPA's stated aim is to unite the players in their goals and their approach, but actually, sort of as much as that might be their intention, the real life impact seems to be one of further fragmentation. Now they would say that's not our fault. Like if everybody gets on board with this, then we can be united. But in real terms, what we're actually seeing happening is just total disunity. Even if everybody's aims are aligned, like just going about those aims in a disunited way seems to be having quite a negative impact. But yeah, like the number of organisations involved in just this one element of this story, like I can understand if listeners just sort of glaze over when we start talking about this stuff, because like, God, it's overwhelming, isn't it? It's a pretty crazy state of affairs. But that is tennis. It's the sport we all know and love and choose to talk about for a living. And we wouldn't have it any other way. It's going to be a fun weekend of tennis. Climax in Paris, WTA Finals getting underway, David on holiday. What more could we all want? Hello to our mascots, Phoebe, Maisie and Roger. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff. Shall we have some shout-outs, Matt?
Yes, we have Sharon from Boston, who says that she's been a listener since before Matt was an intern.
Wow. The bad
Love
old
it.
days. like Samantha Murray Sharon.
Wow,
Or
that's
Sharon
good.
Murray Sharon? Sharon Murray.
That's very good. What about Sharon Fishman, a Canadian former tennis player who got to a career high ranking of 77 in the world in
That would be great if it weren't-
2005?
You've got to style out better the fact that you've Googled it, David.
How can you possibly accuse me of that?
I can see that you're reading.
Well, yes, that
can
is
see
happening.
you.
She is now 34 years of age, and actually I did remember her name, but I completely spelt it wrong. And then it turned out she was no longer the player that I thought she was. But she is a player.
Sharon. I think Sharon's a very underrepresented name in our shout-out, so I'm pleased to have a Sharon. Thank you, Sharon.
We've also got Pooja from Sunnyvale, California.
Pooja, that is so nearly Sunnydale, California, the fictional setting of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I'm sure Pooja has heard that before. But thank you,
Pooja has in
Pooja.
fact referenced that in her shout-out.
Go on then, hit me with it.
Pooja says no connection to
Oh,
Sunnydale in Buffy. That was in Southern California. This is in Northern California, close to San Francisco. Almost ideal tennis playing weather. I wonder why we don't have any tournaments here in the San Francisco Bay Area with beautiful tennis weather and dedicated fans. So she's making a come and get me plea in her shout out. I like it.
There used to be one at Stanford University, didn't there, which is in the Bay Area, but no longer. I'm sorry, Pooja, if I've offended you with my immediate Buffy the Vampire Slayer reference, but I'm grateful to you for enabling me to think about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is iconic TV.
And Pooja has a 13-year-old rescue Shih Tzu poodle called Michi, who perks up every time she hears Billie Jean in the background.
Oh, Michi, hello. Oh, that's great. All good stuff, Pooja. Thank you.
And finally, we have Natalie from New York.
Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Natalie.
Natalie says, I was able to fulfill a lifetime dream by attending Wimbledon for the first time this year, and I saw Carlos Alcaraz versus Fabio Fognini. Remember that match?
Oh, my God. What a dog's dinner that was.
Wow. Crikey.
Like Natalie Deshu.
Was that 5 sets or 4?
Too
It was
many.
too many sets. It was too many sets against.
It was not very
5.
good, was it?
I think it was 5, you know.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it was as well.
I think there was a moment when I was wondering whether, Fognini was going to join Berrettini as, the people, the Italians to have won a 5th set against Carlos Alcaraz. I think I remember having that thought.
Wow. Natalie Tozier, coach of Victoria Mboko.
Yes. And Natalie, despite attending Wimbledon for the first time this year, has been a long-time attendee of the US Open, and says that, I must admit, leaving an epic match due to the late hour, the 2001 men's quarter-final between Agassi and Sampras. Agassi loved late-night matches more than I did, says Natalie. I get it. I'm not gonna
like me leaving Sinner Alcaraz.
I'm not gonna call Natalie out for that. People have lives.
People have lives. Natalie has a life to lead. Good for you, Natalie.
And she now says that she's eyeing up the fan slam. It hadn't been a bucket list thing for her before, but she's now she's got Wimbledon. She's halfway there, and she thinks she's going to go for it. So
Two good ones, Natalie. Keep us posted. Natalie, Pooja, Sharon, thank you ever so much for your support of the Tennis Podcast. If you'd like to get yourself a shout out, become a friend of the pod, get access to all of our bonus content and ad-free listening and plenty else besides, then the link to do that is in our show notes. We'll be back on Monday with our pod as normal, and we'll have extra ones coming at you over the next few weeks as we cover the WTA Finals and then the ATP Finals in Turin as well. Thank you for listening. David, go and enjoy your holiday. We'll speak to you on Monday.